I want to turn to Victoria. You are a political reporter for the Boston Globe, and I wonder what you make of this sharpening of the contrast now between the different factions of the Democratic Party, because as you see Bernie Sanders and Pete Buttigieg sort of battling things out, things are seeming to be brought into sharp relief in a way that they weren't obviously on Iowa caucus night, that evening anyway.
Well, I think what you're really seeing is just how unsettled the field still is. I mean, sure, there's Bernie Sanders, and he is on top. Joe Biden is very clearly not the presumptive frontrunner that he and his campaign claimed they were for months and months. But, you know, we heard a lot from voters who broke very late for Amy Klobuchar. And a lot of them, told various media outlets that they were considering between Klobuchar and Warren, who are not too in the same lane as we like to divide things. So I don't know if that's just the infamous independent-minded New Hampshire voter, or if that's more broadly speaking to this desire above all else among Democratic voters to just find that secret sauce, that candidate that can beat Donald Trump, and everybody's still confused as to who that person is.
Yeah, on that point, Lynda, we know that according to the exit polls, Amy Klobuchar, one of those voters who said that the most important, the most recent debate, rather, was most important to them, or was important to them in considering who they were going to choose. And I wonder, now that we are into 2020, is there a sense that the focus now of the Democratic electorate is much more trained on what's been happening? Because this is not the first debate. I mean, there have been, as we've been saying, a series of debates here, but the field was quite large. And I know that for some voters, that was kind of part of the difficulty in trying to pay attention because there were so many candidates on that stage.
Yeah, absolutely. The breadth of the field has certainly been daunting, and the voters that I've spoken to have said it's been tough for them to sort through it, and most of them were kind of sitting back and trying to see how things were going to shake out. And when you start thinking about where we began, when we had double nights of debates, it's not surprising that people weren't necessarily tuned in at that moment. Now that voting is actually underway, this is when people start to pay attention. That happens in every single cycle, and this one has been no different. For Amy Klobuchar, the great thing for her has been that she has been strong on the debate stage actually consistently. And if you think about it, the last debate being on a Friday night, enough people paying attention for her to raise $3 million in 2 days, this is the moment. I mean, this is the time to rise, to peak, and to start to get people's attention. We'll see if it pans out and become something bigger.
Were you surprised, Antjuan, to see how many people said that first of all, a lot more folks, I think, going into the night thought, it's a Friday night, how much are really people going to be paying attention? And it turned out a significant number of people did actually watch. But then when you look at how they decided to approach this decision, you see Amy Klobuchar there with the majority of the people who said this debate was important.
Well, several things you can take from that. One, I think the natural urgency has turned into voter emergency. And so this urgency to beat Donald Trump, and the more that kind of ramps up, has turned into an emergency for voters to pay attention on a Friday night when most people are at dinner at Kiki's Chicken and Waffles in Columbia, South Carolina. While most people are doing that, we found out very quickly that people are paying attention. That's number one. Number two, Klobuchar did a great job of transferring that energy and that effort into a election night performance. The third thing, I think this is a broader message to every candidate. Run your plays until the clock stops. You never know what play may make a difference, particularly in a game of interest that could separate you from winning the game and losing the game. Tonight, because Amy Klobuchar ran to the very last second on the clock, she was able to pick up voters, and I think that gave her a win.
Leslie, as a Republican on the panel here, and we look at the voting groups that Amy Klobuchar is winning, you see sort of the broad range of folks there, the different kind of perspectives that they come from. But one of the things she said that we heard her talk about was this idea of bringing in moderate Republicans as well. Talk to us about the appeal, right? Because as regular viewers of Red and Blue know, Amy Klobuchar has very much been Leslie Sanchez's dark horse candidate pick for months, well before this night.
She predicted tonight's outcome.
She predicted tonight. She really did.
Oh, y'all are welcome. I'm here to please. I tell you, part of this appeal, there's two parts, right? Part of this appeal is she is on that consistent message of bringing America together. So if you're looking at a Republican, disaffected Republicans who are frustrated with Trump, they are frustrated with the style, the moral, emptiness. You can go on and on about those things. What do you want in contrast to that? You want somebody who's going to kind of elevate statesmanship and what America stands for together. And why can't that be a woman? And traditionally, women are the ones who bring kind of consensus building together. So she had that appeal going in, but you can't discount the negatives, the high negatives that Joe Biden had as the other alternative during impeachment. And we go round and round, hours and hours and weeks of Hunter Biden, still investigations about the Biden. We're launching more investigations into the Bidens. And if you're trying to debate, you don't want more of that and fatigue. It can get into like the Clinton fatigue, that you had with Whitewater, Hillary Clinton, and all of that. What's somebody new going to look like? Okay, so now your alternative is just a process of kind of measuring that. She's somebody who's proven, and on the debate stage, she's tough. She is that Iron Lady with the velvet glove. She has a way of sounding authentic, sounding like somebody who made herself in America, that this country gave her and her family every opportunity, and she took advantage of that. And that spirit of entrepreneurship is what appeals to Republicans.